I'm Talia Landry, and this is the Mashpee TV News Update for December 2018. The Steamship Authority released a report yesterday that called the authority badly understaffed, suffers from a penny-pinching mentality, and is hampered by sparring internal factions. The study came from the independent consultants who were hired by the authority to find out why there were so many problems with the ferry service over the past year. The study team does not consider the problems of 2018 to be an anomaly, but rather the beginning of a trend that is bound to repeat itself if systemic changes are not made. This past spring, the Steamship Authority had an unprecedented number of ferry cancellations and breakdowns, including one in which a ferry was stuck at sea for 5 hours. The report goes on to say that the ferry service needs to hire more staff, develop systems to bolster the oversight of board members and management, and give workers better training and equipment. The ferry system is the lifeline of many who rely on the Steamship Authority to get between the Cape and the islands, and for goods and services to travel back and forth. The authority reported that over 3 million people used the ferry system last year. Steamship Authority officials said that they will remain dedicated to improving the ferry line service and will continue to provide safe passage between the Cape and the islands after listening to the recommendations in the report. One board member said that the report gives much valuable information, and I'm confident that the Steamship Authority as a whole will embrace these changes so they can continue to successfully fulfill the mission mandated by the state. In a report by the Cape Cod Times, the descendants of the country's earliest settlers greeted by the Wampanoag people are backing the tribe in the fight to secure reservation land which is under threat. The General Society of Mayflower Descendants, made up of about 30,000 lineal descendants of the Mayflower Pilgrims, announced Wednesday that it supports legislation pending in Congress that would end a legal challenge to the tribe's reservation and bar future lawsuits. The group's Governor General, George P. Garmany Jr., said in a statement that the agreement between the Europeans and Native Americans in 1621, which led to 54 years of peace, is the only example of cooperation in American history. In light of the fact that our ancestors collectively chose to live in peace for 54 years, the General Society of the Mayflower Descendants fully supports today's Mashpee Wampanoag tribe and joins in support of legislation known as the Mashpee Wampanoag Reservation Reaffirmation Act. In a statement released by Tribal Chairman Cedric Cromwell, he said this is a truly historic moment in which descendants of the Mayflower Pilgrims stand shoulder to shoulder with us as descendants of the Wampanoag people, who broke bread and brokered a long-lasting peace with their ancestors. On December 8th, the Society voted to contact legislators, urging them to protect the tribe's reservation land in Mashpee and Taunton, where the tribe hopes to build a $1 billion resort casino. The future of the 2 bridges that connect Cape Cod with the mainland was being discussed around the Cape recently with 5 meetings held by the Army Corps of Engineers at different locations. The response from residents was overwhelming in favor of building 2 new bridges to replace the aging Bourne and Sagamore bridges. Also discussed was the option of building a 3rd bridge or a tunnel in addition to the 2 bridges. Currently, with the volume of travelers and residents on the Cape, it would be impossible to get everyone off the Cape in a timely manner during an event that required a total evacuation. The Army Corps of Engineers does support the idea of a total rebuild of the bridges over the constant need to tweak the current bridges. New bridges will also alleviate the concerns of lane size and pedestrian access, which are both out of date and not in compliance with federal guidelines regarding highway access. The ACE is working on the study to compare building new bridges to continuing to repair and maintain the 83-year-old bridges. They hope to have more meetings once the study and bridge design work is complete in mid-2019. Meanwhile, in a recent announcement, the head of the Mass DOT, Stephanie Pollack, is hoping to fast-track the bridge's replacement with federal funds. Building new bridges could cost as much as $1 billion, which Pollack says will be paid with federal dollars, while the state would pick up the cost of improvements to the roads on both sides of the bridges. The first meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers, which was held in Bourne, is currently being shown in its entirety on Mashpee TV Channel 99. The Mashpee School Committee last week approved a 10-minute shift in the district's plan to adjust start times for all 3 public schools. The proposal, which was first approved in May, had Mashpee Middle High School slated to run from 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., beginning in fall 2019. However, the day will instead begin at 8:20 a.m. and run until 2:50 p.m. as a result of the vote taken at the committee's meeting Wednesday, December 12th. That 10-minute change is critical to easing a tight schedule for the buses at dismissal time, according to Superintendent Patricia DeBoer. Next year, the Quashnet Elementary and Casey Coombs schools will run from 9:05 a.m. to 3:35 p.m. And that's all we have for this edition of the Mashpee TV News Update. The staff of Mashpee TV wishes you and your families a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I'm Talia Landry for Mashpee TV.